Barangay ba? Ang barangay ba is helpful? Do you go to barangay for help?
Yes, yes. Oh, so yung barangay, they're very helpful naman. So, there are some instances na it's within their jurisdiction. So, kahit naman wala, they assist. Actually, ang maganda sa barangay is that there's a sense of authority din do sa barangay. And syempre, yung sa lessee, mahiya din naman sila na pumupunta doon yung barangay and they're being subpoenaed by the barangay to attend a hearing, etc. The next one is number 4 is how to handle complaints. So for example, may mga tenants kasi na masyadong mareklamo talaga. So my advice is in the contract, in your lease contract, you say it's an as is, where is basis. So kung ano yung property na yan, yan na yan. Second, there should be a confirmation for that the tenant inspected the property and they're okay with the property. Kasi sometimes, pagdating ng tenant, pag move in nila, biglang, ay, ayoko nito, papalit nito. So, before the move in, there should be a confirmation na you inspected the property and you're okay.
Una, we have a question from Mr. Marvin Guillermo. Dalawa lang dapat yung tenant. Pero, 6 ang tsinelas, kunwari 6, di ba? Pero nagbabayad naman. How do you deal with it?
Typically in the contract, it's of course it's a violation ng contract. Since it's a violation of the contract, it could be a ground to terminate the contract. Pero syempre as a landlord, kung ganyan, I think it's a minor violation. For the first offense, you send a letter muna na advising them na dalawa lang yung tao na agreement natin, pero when I went there are 6 people, or when I was advised there are 6 people leaving the property. Kuwari, after a week, you make a follow-up. Pag ganun pa rin, you make a reminder. Pero siguro, bigyan mo lang siya ng mga in a month to comply. Pag wala pa rin, probably it's time to make a more, mas stern warning. Then, maybe it could also be a ground for you to terminate the contract if you want.
Attorney, how do you terminate the contract? So, you write a letter?
Yes.
Ikaw lang? Personal lang?
Yes, personal lang. Personal lang.
Terminating the contract, ganun.
Based on, syempre it should be with valid grounds, no? So, you have to refer to your contract. Ano ba yung valid grounds na to terminate the contract? So, these are typically non-payment, violation of the terms of the contract. Next is number 5 is to determine the use of the property. So I've discussed earlier already na, okay, so you have to be clear that your lease property is only for example, residential or commercial. Kung commercial, better also to specify kung ano yung commercial activity. So for example, it's for trade, warehousing, manufacturing. So you can limit the activity in your property. So it's very important and also to assess yung legitimacy of the activity. So para din malaman yung mga permits na kailangan. I think I missed the number 6, which is yung improvements. So there must be a provision on improvements. Why? Because if you're silent, ano ba yung improvements? Meaning yung mga dinagdag mo doon sa property. So under the law, if the lessee makes in good faith useful improvements in the property, the lessor upon termination of the lease shall pay 1/2 of the value of the improvements. No? So, for example, ito typical to for example sa mga gas station, yung mga long-term lease. For example, you have a vacant lot, biglang si Jollibee nag-rent sa'yo, nagtayo ng building. So, it's an improvement. So, if there's no provision in the contract at the end of the lease term, for you to have full ownership of the improvement, the lessor must pay 1/2 of the value of the improvement. But that's if you're silent on improvements, yung rules on improvements. That's why in those instances, we state in the contract that at the end of the lease term, all improvements will inure to the benefit of the lessor without the right of reimbursement from the part of the lessee. Kumbaga, hindi ka na kailangan magbayad, sa'yo na yan na. So, dapat nilalagay mo yun sa kontrata. Kasi, at the end of the lease term, baka akala mo, sa akin yung building at the end of the lease term. Bigla sabi ni Jollibee, bayaran mo na ako 1/2. Sa'yo na yung building. Pag hindi mo binayaran ng 1/2, gagawin lang nung lessee mo, sige, I'll just tear it down.
Okay.
So, sayang, di ba? So, you put in the contract na at the end of the lease term, all improvements will inure to the benefit of or will be owned by the lessor. Next number is taxes. So, know the taxes that you need to pay, no? So, if the property that you're renting out is a residential property, and for example, it doesn't exceed the monthly rent does not exceed 15,000 pesos, then it's VAT exempt. You don't have to pay VAT. So, but if your monthly rent is more than 15,000, as a general rule, it's VATable. Pero if for example in a year, hindi naman siya mag-exceed ng 3 million, the gross receipts will not exceed 3 million, then it will not be VATable, but you have to pay 3% percentage tax. Second is you have to pay business taxes. There are a lot of lessors na hindi nag-apply for a lessor's permit. But if you're leasing out commercial properties, definitely you have to apply for a lessor's permit. Then when you have a lesser permit, you have to pay your business taxes. So you need to know your taxes. Why? Para alam nyo kung magkano ba talaga yung income. So that whenever you negotiate for your monthly rent, you know what will be your net amount. Next is yung provision on the eviction, so which we have discussed, no.
Any advice about ejectment? Meron nasabi mo na kanina, ano pa ba? What else can you add?
So far sa ejectment, kami sa ejectment talaga, we try to exhaust all possible means to eject the tenant without going to the court. So kasi it's first, especially in this time, it's very difficult to go to court. Laging sarado ang court, no? May delay talaga in process. So we try to negotiate, sit down with the tenant before going to to filing a case in court, no. But all of this hassle, actually it's avoidable eh. How? Conducting your due diligence. Just checking the background of your lessee. If that's a company, you try to ask some of their suppliers or previous lessors to ask kung how are they as a lessee. Second is talagang very important is to have a good contract eh. Then dapat namo-monitor din siya. So you enforce the contract diligently.
Alam mo, majority of our landlords mababait naman eh, di ba? Lahat ng mga audience natin, they have good heart, good faith. But sometimes it's a challenge ka talaga with your tenants, di ba? They abuse you, they take you for granted. What if warehouse? Maayos ka naman, nagbabayad naman sila. Then one day you get a call from, I don't know, a police na may illegal gamit pala sa loob. Mai-involve ka ba? Wala ka namang kinalaman dun sa business sa loob.
Okay. Depende kung anong illegal na gamit. If that's illegal drugs, then yes. Kasi you use a property, there's a specific provision under the law that the property owner could be held liable also.
Oh, really?
Yes. Oo. So, but for other activities, there's no specific depending on the activity, again, you have to check the special law. But for other activities, none naman.
I mean, may chance ba na ma-involve ka dun sa gamit na nasa loob? And how do you protect yourself?
Yun nga, if that's drugs, yes, it's possible. It's illegal drugs, illegal substance, it's possible. How do you protect yourself? First, even though you put it in the contract that you will shield it from all the liabilities. Pero syempre, kontrata yan. Pag nandyan na yan, kahit naman sabihin mo na dito yung kontrata, there would still be hassle. So my suggestion is that you constantly monitor your lessees. And part of the monitoring is that usually there's a provision in the contract that you can inspect the property within reasonable hours, business hours. So you inspect the property once in a while. Like for example, every other month, you check kung merong unusual activity in your lease property. I'll make a summary of all the 8 points that I've discussed. No? So number 1 is that please have a comprehensive lease contract. Second, make sure that you have an advance rent. You also secure a security deposit from your tenant. Number 4 is make sure that your contract has a provision on how to handle the tenant's complaints. No. Fifth will be clear on the use of the property, whether it's residential, commercial, etc. 6 would be there must be the rule on improvement should be stated in your contract. Number 7, know the taxes or fees that you will pay so that you will know how much net amount that you will receive for the property. Lastly, number 8 would be the rules on how to eject or evict your tenant. No, in your investing in real property, leasing out your property is very, very, very important. That first you conduct your due diligence on your lessee. Second is that you craft a comprehensive lease contract. So that's 2 advice that I could give you that hopefully will avoid all or most of the problems that you will encounter in leasing out your properties.